I see the harlot of Babylon as a religious establishment managing human-centered forms of religion, resting upon the support of a political establishment. A world religion, or a world alliance of religions, supplementing the political religion of the worship of the beast. We may be able to guess what it would look like by projecting forward some of the current trends of modern culture. There is the casual expectance of reincarnation, as when people say, "I'll come back as," which has become a feature of modern folk religion. There is the fashionable understanding that spirituality means a focus on the human spirit and what the human spirit can achieve. The fictional Jedi belief system, which is developing into a half-serious cult, is one of the symptoms of a willingness to believe in the human-centered power of the dead. Sun Myung Moon thought he had a recipe for uniting the traditional religions of the world under one leadership. This recipe did not work in practice. He could entice individuals away from the main religious communities, but he could not entice the religious communities themselves. By definition, a figure acceptable to the Christians would not have been acceptable to the Jews and the Muslims, and so on. The different religions of the world could only be united under an umbrella without any previous, alienating, religious associations. What could play this role? I suggest that we look to environmentalism. We may learn to call this climate change. Concern for the environment is becoming more prevalent in our culture. It is becoming a kind of background belief. Like most forms of political enthusiasm, it resembles religion in a growing intolerance towards opposition or non-participation. At the same time, scientific environmentalism offers no offense to traditional religions. That makes it a natural umbrella belief system, capable of embracing religious communities in general. But what happens when environmentalism ceases to be scientific? If there is any truth in the more pessimistic projections, the time will come when people begin to lose their trust in scientific solutions. In their despair, they are likely to turn to non-rational solutions. That could be when climate change develops into a more religious outlook. Belief in the power of nature would begin to approach the worship of the gods of nature, which was prevalent in the Roman world. The concept of Gaia was put forward in our own time as a metaphor, a label to identify the completeness of this planet as an environment. But when a less rational generation was beginning to panic about the state of the world, we might expect to see a more conscious personification of Gaia, preparing the way for appeals to Gaia's power to help them survive as a literal female figure. She would still be plausibly compatible with many of the religions of the world. In the Roman Catholic community, the company of different versions of Mary could be expanded, no doubt, by the addition of Mary Gaia, with her own cult and local visions. The beast from the land could be brought into the system by claiming to be the son of Gaia, and in that sense the returned Christ. The trouble would come when the appeals for help were taking the form of religious practices, capable of being understood as involving the worship of Gaia. Faithful Christians, and probably others, would refuse to participate. Since the cult would be endorsed by the political establishment, they could, with some reason, identify any compulsory element as the mark of the beast. But their failure to participate would be intolerable to the world at large. If the disputed ceremonies were deemed necessary to ward off droughts, floods, volcanoes and earthquakes, anyone holding back and refusing to take part would be blamed for causing droughts, floods, volcanoes and earthquakes. The vengeance of the frightened world would be hysterical. That's what was happening in the time of Tertullian, explaining the public hostility which the Church experienced from the Roman Empire in his time. That is one possible explanation of the harlot, drunk with the blood of the saints. Of course, nobody should elevate these thoughts to the status of prophecy. They are a forward projection from current events, and don't claim to be anything more. The important point is that there will always be a challenge to God's authority. We do not need to know what form it will take. Our role is to be ready for it, in any form, through our commitment to God and His Christ. Here is a call for the endurance and faith of the saints.